She loved me when she thought I had money and left me when she found out I didn't. Years later, fate made me her boss, and this time, I wasn't the one begging for love.
They say love doesn't ask for status, money, or power. But whoever said that probably never met someone like her. I first met Lena on a rainy Tuesday evening, when the city smelled of wet asphalt and broken promises. I was working as a part-time waiter in a small cafe downtown. I was in college back then, broke, ambitious, and completely invisible to the world. My shifts stretched until midnight, my shoes always damp, and my hands smelled faintly of espresso and dish soap. But then she walked in, and suddenly the cafe didn't feel small anymore. Lena was everything the world told me I could never have. Her dress wasn't loud, but you could tell it cost more than my entire month's rent. Her eyes were sharp, confident, the kind of gaze that could make a man forget what he was supposed to say. She sat by the window scrolling through her phone and ordered a cappuccino in the softest voice I'd ever heard. When I handed her the cup, she smiled. Just a small curve of her lips, but it felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. "Thanks," she said. "You make it look perfect." I didn't know then that this girl, with her glossy hair and subtle perfume, would change everything about my life and destroy it at the same time. At first, we were just customer and waiter, but she started coming often. Always the same order, always the same seat by the window. Sometimes she'd stay for hours, pretending to read, while I tried not to stare too long. One night, when the cafe was nearly empty, she asked, "You work here every night?" I nodded, wiping a counter. "Yeah, gotta pay for school somehow." "What are you studying?" "Business administration," I said. "Someday I'll run my own company." She smiled. "Ambitious. I like that." That was the first time I saw warmth in her voice, and maybe a little curiosity. From then on, we started talking more. About dreams, books, random songs playing in the background. I'd tell her how I wanted to build something big. A company that didn't crush people just to climb higher. She'd listen with fascination. Sometimes she'd tease me, saying, "You talk like you're already a CEO." I'd laugh and reply, "Just a broke one." Those nights felt like hope wrapped in caffeine and laughter. After a few weeks, I gathered the courage to ask her out. She hesitated not because she didn't want to, but because she seemed unsure if someone like me fit into her world. But I made her laugh that night, and somehow she said yes. We went to cheap diners, walked through city parks, and talked until dawn. I didn't have much to offer, just time, honesty, and a heart that beat faster every time she smiled. She told me about her family. Her father owned a small investment firm. Her mother ran a charity. They lived in the suburbs where every house had gates taller than dreams. She said they were traditional, which was her polite way of saying they'd never approve of me. Still, I believed love could overcome all that. I believed her when she said, "I don't care what they think. I like you for who you are." And for a while I thought that was true. Months passed. We got closer. I fell deeper. She became my reason to keep pushing through double shifts and sleepless nights. I'd save up just to buy her something small, a bracelet, a book, or her favorite perfume. She'd smile, kiss me, and tell me I didn't need to impress her. But I noticed things changing. The late replies, the canceled plans, the way she started dressing up more when she said she was meeting friends. I tried not to think too much of it. Love makes fools of even the smartest men. Then came the night that shattered me. It was a Friday. I had planned a small surprise dinner at a rooftop restaurant. I borrowed money from my roommate to make it happen. I texted her, "Can't wait to see you tonight." No reply. An hour passed, too. Finally, I got a message. "Sorry, can't make it. Something came up." Disappointed but trying to understand, I decided to walk back through downtown, maybe grab coffee at the place we first met. But as I turned the corner, I saw her. She was stepping out of a black Mercedes laughing, her hand hooked around the arm of a man in an expensive suit. He looked older, polished, the kind of man who had everything I didn't. They walked into the same restaurant I'd booked for us. My stomach dropped. My hands trembled. I stood across the street watching them from the shadows. The city noise fading until all I could hear was my own heartbeat. He pulled her chair. She smiled, our smile. He handed her a gift bag, and she leaned over, kissed his cheek. That was the moment everything inside me cracked. For days I didn't eat, didn't sleep, didn't even go to work. When I finally called her, she answered in a cold tone I'd never heard before. "Ethan, I didn't mean for you to see that." Then what did I see? I just realized we're too different. My parents don't approve, and honestly, I need stability in my life. "Stability?" I asked, voice breaking. "You mean money." She didn't deny it. Just silence. That silence said everything. "Goodbye, Ethan," she whispered. And just like that, the girl I built my world around walked out. Not because of what I lacked inside, but because of what I lacked in my wallet. That night I made a promise. Not to win her back, not to prove her wrong, but to become the man I always said I'd be, not for her, but for the version of me she broke. I packed my bags, quit the cafe, and left the city. The next time Lena saw me, she wouldn't see a broke student. She'd see her boss. When you lose everything, you learn what kind of man you truly are. And when the person you loved turns their back on you for money, you stop dreaming, you start building. The morning after Lena left me, the city didn't look the same. The streets I once thought were filled with opportunity now felt cold, distant. But somewhere in that emptiness, something inside me clicked, a voice whispering, "No one's coming to save you." I left my apartment with 2 bags and $300 to my name. My old friend Noah lived in a smaller town a few hours away, and he offered me his couch and a chance to help at his uncle's repair shop. I said yes. Those early months were hell. Long hours, grease-stained hands, cheap noodles every night. But I didn't complain. I stopped thinking about Lena, or how she laughed with that man in the Mercedes. Every drop of sweat became fuel. Every insult became motivation. At night I'd read business books, startup case studies, anything I could find. My old dreams of running a company no longer felt distant. They felt necessary. I promised myself, I'll never be the man someone can look down on again. Noah would tease me. "Bro, you're fixing cars like your life depends on it." "It does," I'd reply with a smile. After 2 years, I'd saved enough to move back to the city. The skyline greeted me like an old enemy, tall, rich, unbothered. But this time, I wasn't the same broke college kid who once served coffee to a pretty girl. I was smarter, harder, and I knew exactly what I wanted. The startup dream. I joined a small logistics company as a trainee. It wasn't glamorous, spreadsheets, phone calls, and late nights. But it taught me how businesses truly worked. Most people clocked out at 5. I stayed till midnight, learning from the systems, the numbers, the mistakes. One evening, my manager, Mr. Collins, stopped by my desk. "Ethan, don't you ever go home?" I shrugged. "I'm just trying to learn as much as I can, sir." He smirked. "You remind me of myself 20 years ago. Keep this up and you won't be sitting here long." He was right. Within 2 years, I became the youngest regional manager in the company. People started noticing me by my strategies, my discipline, the way I treated everyone with respect. I wasn't chasing status anymore. I was building it brick by brick, but fate has a funny way of circling back. At a corporate event while networking with investors, I overheard a name I hadn't heard in years. Lena Brooks, one of the investors said. She joined our client's marketing division recently. Bright girl, though she seems distracted lately. I froze for a second. Her name echoed like a ghost from a past I buried. "Lena." I smiled politely and excused myself. My heart was steady. No more pain, no more longing. Just curiosity. The turning point. Months later, I decided to start my own company. A logistics tech startup that optimized deliveries using AI tracking, a niche most people ignored back then. I pitched the idea to small investors, worked night and day, barely slept. Noah became my partner, handling operations while I focused on strategy and funding. We failed, then failed again. Then one day we didn't. A mid-sized retail chain adopted our system. Their profits rose by 15% in 3 months. Suddenly, we weren't just another startup. We were Echelon Dynamics, a rising name in the industry. Money started flowing in. Investors called me. I bought my first suit, not for show, but for war. Within 3 years, we expanded to 5 cities. I was now CEO Ethan Cole, 29 years old, once broke, now a name people wanted meetings with. When the past knocks. It was a Tuesday morning when my secretary, Mia, walked in holding a resume. "Sir, new applicants for the marketing department. One stands out. Strong background in PR, solid references." I barely looked up. "Leave it on the desk. I'll review it later." She nodded and walked out. Later that evening, as I flipped through the papers, one name stopped me cold. Lena Brooks. Same handwriting, same college degree. No mistake. I leaned back in my chair, the city lights reflecting off the glass walls behind me. It felt unreal. The girl who once said I wasn't stable enough was now applying for a job in my company. Fate wasn't knocking, it was smiling. I didn't react with anger. I didn't even feel joy, just stillness. I wrote a note on the file. Approved. Schedule an interview personally. The interview. 3 days later, she walked in. Her hair was shorter now. Her eyes, tired, maybe a little sadder. She wore a simple navy blouse and held her resume like it was the last thing she had left. When our eyes met, she froze. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Miss Brooks," I replied calmly. "Please have a seat." The silence between us could have cut glass. "You're the CEO?" she asked, almost in disbelief. "Last time I checked, yes." Her cheeks flushed. She tried to compose herself. "I didn't know this was your company." "I'm sure you didn't." I leaned forward slightly. "So tell me, Miss Brooks, why do you want to work here?" She hesitated. "I'm just looking for a new start." "After losing your last one?" I asked, my tone neutral. Her eyes flickered with guilt. "Things didn't go as I planned. People change. Life changes." I smiled faintly. "Yes, it does." I stood up and extended my hand. "Welcome to Echelon Dynamics." She looked surprised, confused even. But I wasn't done. This wasn't about revenge yet. It was about control. And control I had plenty of. That night, as I stood by my office window, the city glittered below like it had all those years ago. But this time, it glittered for me. I wasn't the poor boy who once waited for a text that never came. I was the man who built an empire from his heartbreak. And tomorrow, the woman who broke me would clock in. For me. The next morning, when I walked into the office, I could feel every pair of eyes following me. But one in particular lingered a little longer. Lena sat quietly at her new desk in the marketing department, pretending to study her onboarding documents. Her hair was neatly tied, her smile polite, her tone careful. To everyone else, she was just another employee. To me, she was the ghost of my past, walking through the halls of everything I had built after she left me behind. A familiar stranger. I didn't speak to her for the first few days. I let her settle, observe, adapt. She worked hard, and I'll give her that. Long hours, detailed reports, ideas that impressed even my senior managers. But I noticed something else. A quiet sadness behind her ambition. The sparkle she once had was gone. Her laugh, once carefree, now sounded rehearsed. Sometimes, when she'd pass my office, our eyes would meet for a split second, and she'd look away immediately. Maybe guilt, maybe fear, or maybe regret. One evening, as I was finishing up some late paperwork, Mia, my secretary, knocked on the door. "Sir, Lena's still working in the marketing wing. Should I ask her to leave for the night?" "No," I said. "Let her finish." A few minutes later, curiosity won. I walked to her department, my steps quiet, my expression unreadable. She was sitting under the dim office light, typing slowly, focused, unaware that I was watching her. For a second, I saw the girl I once loved. Not the one who broke me, but the one who used to fall asleep on my shoulder while dreaming about our future. I exhaled sharply. The memory burned, but I didn't let it show. "You're working late," I said, my voice steady. She flinched slightly and turned. "Oh, I didn't realize you were still here." "Deadlines don't wait," I replied. She nodded, her tone soft. "I wanted to make a good impression." "You already have," I said, "at least professionally." Her eyes lifted, searching for something behind my words. "Ethan, can we talk?" The conversation we never had. I leaned against the edge of a desk. "Talk after all these years? I know I don't deserve your time," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "But I owe you an apology." I said nothing, back then. "I was scared," she continued. "My family, they didn't believe in you. They said you had no future, no money, nothing to offer. I tried to fight them, Ethan, I swear I did, but you didn't," I cut in quietly. Her eyes filled with tears. "No, I didn't. I let them win, and I've hated myself for it ever since." The room was silent. The air felt heavier than before. "You made your choice," I said, my tone calm but sharp. "And I made mine." "You're right," she whispered. "But when I saw you again, I realized I never really stopped caring." That line hit somewhere deep, but I didn't let it show. Instead, I smiled faintly. Care doesn't erase betrayal. Lena, it just decorates the wound. She looked away, ashamed. "I know," she said softly. "But maybe I can still prove to you that I'm not the same person." I picked up a document from the table and glanced at her report. Flawless. "Well written. You've already started proving it," I said. "Keep your focus on work. That's all that matters here." Then I walked away, leaving her standing in silence, the weight of her past pressing down harder than ever. The shift in the air. Weeks passed. She worked harder than anyone else in the department. Her ideas began catching my attention. Fresh campaigns, precise analytics, strategies that boosted sales by nearly 20%. At meetings, she spoke with confidence. But every time our eyes met, there was that flicker of unspoken history. I wanted to hate her. I wanted to keep the walls up. But every time she walked into the room, something in me shifted, a mix of pride, anger, and a haunting kind of nostalgia. Mia noticed it too. "Sir, you've been quieter lately," she said once, half joking. "Just thinking about numbers," I replied. She smirked. "Or someone who works with them?" I didn't respond, but her question lingered longer than I wanted it to. The dinner invitation. A month later, our company landed a big client, a contract worth millions. I decided to host a small dinner for the core team. Everyone was excited, laughing, toasting. Lena sat at the corner of the table, quiet but smiling. When the event ended, most people left, except her. "Congratulations, Ethan," she said softly, approaching me. "You did everything you said you would. And more." "You sound surprised," I said with a small smile. "Not surprised, just proud." Her voice cracked slightly at the last word. There was a pause, long enough for old memories to slip in. "Would you have stayed," I asked suddenly, "if I'd had all this back then?" She froze. "I don't know," she admitted. "Maybe, but that doesn't make it right." For the first time, I saw honesty in her eyes. Not excuses, not pity, just the truth. "Maybe we can start over," she whispered. "Start over?" I repeated. "You mean, as colleagues?" She smiled faintly. "Maybe as people who once loved each other, and still remember why." Before I could answer, she walked away, leaving me standing in the glow of city lights, wondering whether revenge was still what I wanted, or something else entirely was beginning to take its place. That night I couldn't sleep, because for the first time in years, the pain of the past wasn't the loudest thing in my mind. She was. The office had its rhythm, the soft hum of printers, the tapping of keyboards, the low buzz of chatter during lunch breaks. But lately that rhythm had shifted. People talked softer when I entered the room. They looked longer when Lena passed by. Rumors, I could feel them in the air even before I heard them. Mia, my ever-loyal secretary, was the first to say it. "Sir, forgive me for saying this, but people are starting to talk." "About what?" I asked, even though I already knew. "About you and Lena." I leaned back in my chair, expression calm. "There's nothing to talk about," I said flatly. "Maybe not," she replied carefully. "But perception is stronger than truth in this place." A growing tension. Lena had been exceptional, too exceptional. Her ideas had earned praise from clients. Her leadership impressed even the board. And despite my efforts to remain distant, I found myself noticing her more and more. She wasn't the same woman who once broke me. There was a new kind of maturity in her, one shaped by guilt, loss, and survival. Sometimes when she smiled, it wasn't out of joy. It was out of pain she'd learned to hide. One evening, she knocked gently on my office door. "Do you have a minute?" "For work or something else?" I asked. "Both." She stepped inside, closing the door behind her. She was nervous. I could tell by the way her fingers fidgeted with the strap of her purse. "They're talking about us," she said finally. "Let them," I replied. "We know the truth." "Do we?" she whispered almost to herself. That question hung in the air like smoke. The dinner. A week later, we had a corporate dinner with our top investors. I told myself it was business, that inviting Lena was purely professional. But deep down, I knew that wasn't the full truth. She arrived in a navy blue dress, elegant, subtle, and dangerously reminiscent of the woman I used to know. The investors adored her presentation. Her voice carried confidence, charm, and intellect. After the dinner, as the guests left, it was just the two of us standing on the terrace, looking out at the city lights. "You did well tonight," I said. "Thank you. It felt good, being trusted again." There was a pause. "Do you ever think about what we could have been?" I asked quietly. She turned to me slowly. "Every day." The honesty in her voice cracked something inside me. Without realizing it, I took a step closer, close enough to smell the faint trace of her perfume. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice trembling. "We shouldn't." "I know," I said. "But tell me you don't feel it too." She didn't, she couldn't. Her silence said everything. Caught between two worlds. The next morning, Mia entered my office with a folder, her expression unreadable. "Sir, a few members of the board have raised concerns." "About what now?" "About your involvement with a certain employee." I closed my eyes and exhaled slowly. The corporate world didn't forgive easily, especially not when emotion blurred professionalism. "Tell them to mind their work," I said sharply. Ethan, Mia said softly, you built this empire on discipline. Don't let one mistake ruin it. Her words hit deeper than she knew, because deep down I feared she was right. The storm inside. That night I sat alone in my penthouse, whiskey glass in hand, watching the rain streak across the window. Every drop reminded me of her tears the day she left. Every thunderclap echoed the anger I thought I'd buried. Why did she still have this hold on me? Why, after all the pain, did her voice still calm me more than silence ever could? My phone buzzed. A message. From her. I'm sorry if I caused trouble. Maybe I should resign. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. You're not running again. Not this time. She didn't reply. But an hour later, she showed up at my door, drenched from the rain, trembling. You shouldn't have come, I said. You said not to run, she whispered. And in that moment, as lightning flashed behind her, I realized something terrifying. I no longer wanted revenge. I wanted her. But love born from betrayal is never pure. And fate, as it always does, was preparing to remind me of that in the cruelest way possible. The next few days were a blur: meetings, deadlines, and a silence that grew heavier between us with each passing hour. Lena came to work every day, professional and poised, but there was something in her eyes I couldn't ignore. Guilt. Deep, unspoken guilt. I told myself to focus on the company, to push her out of my thoughts, but I couldn't, because the night she stood at my door, soaked in rain, changed everything. We didn't speak about it afterward, but something between us had cracked open again, a fragile, dangerous thread pulling us closer, a shadow from the past. One morning, as I entered the office, I saw a man standing near the reception desk, tall, sharply dressed. His confidence carried an arrogance that was painfully familiar. Lena froze when she saw him. Lena, he said with a smirk. Long time no see. Her voice trembled. What are you doing here, Ryan? Ryan. The name echoed in my head like a warning. Mia walked up to me quietly. Sir, that's Ryan Blake, CEO of Techline Corp. He requested a meeting about the merger proposal. A cold realization hit me. Ryan, the man she left me for. The man who destroyed my career years ago. When he bought out my startup and shut it down overnight. Now he was standing in my building smiling at my ex. This should be interesting, he said as he extended his hand. Ethan, I replied, gripping it harder than necessary. Welcome to my company. The tense meeting. The boardroom felt like a battlefield. Ryan spoke with the same charm that used to win investors, while Lena kept her gaze lowered, her hands trembling under the table. Our companies could benefit from cooperation, Ryan said smoothly. But of course that depends on mutual trust. I smiled, a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Trust is earned, not bought, I replied. And you have a history of taking what doesn't belong to you. Lena flinched. Ryan's smirk faltered for just a second. The air was thick with tension, with unspoken truths clawing their way to the surface. After the meeting, Lena found me in my office. Ethan, I didn't know he'd be here. Didn't you? I asked, my voice low. I swear, I cut all ties with him. You left me for him. That was years ago. I was young, scared. I slammed my hand on the desk. You chose money over love. Don't tell me it was fear. Tears welled in her eyes. You think I didn't regret it every day? Her words hit hard. But before I could respond, Mia knocked and entered, holding a file. Sir, you should see this. The revelation. Inside the file were emails, internal communications between Ryan's assistant and Lena. Dates, messages, plans. It looked like she'd been feeding him confidential information about our project. My chest tightened. What is this? I demanded. It's not what it looks like, she said quickly. Then what is it, Lena? Because it looks like betrayal, again. She shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. He threatened me, Ethan. He said he'd ruin your company if I didn't cooperate. I was trying to protect you. Protect me? I scoffed. By handing him our secrets? She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. For the first time since she came back, I saw the same woman who had broken me, and it tore me apart inside. The breaking point. That night, I called an emergency board meeting. Ryan's merger proposal was denied, and Lena was placed under suspension pending investigation. When she walked out of the office that evening, her eyes found mine, pleading, broken. Ethan, please. You have to believe me. Belief died the day you left me, I said coldly. She didn't argue. She just whispered, Then I guess I've lost you twice. And as she walked away, something inside me twisted painfully. Because I didn't know if I'd just made the right decision or the biggest mistake of my life. That night's truth. At midnight, I sat in my office, unable to focus. Mia came in quietly, placing another file on my desk. "Sir, there's something you should see." Inside were security logs, timestamps showing. Lena had accessed files after Ryan's visit, but all her actions were encrypted. She wasn't stealing information. She was setting up a trace, a digital trap, and for him, and suddenly it hit me like lightning. She was protecting me. I stood up abruptly, heart pounding. "Where is she now?" "She hasn't gone home," Mia said softly. "But Ryan has." And that was all I needed to know. I grabbed my coat and rushed out into the night, knowing that if I didn't find her now, I might never see her again. The city was wrapped in fog that night, heavy, gray, and merciless. Rain clung to the streets like a curse, blurring headlights into ghosts as I drove through downtown. My heart pounding harder with every turn. Lena's phone was off. Ryan's penthouse address flashed on the dashboard screen. The same man who'd taken everything from me once. If he was involved again, I wasn't letting history repeat itself. When I arrived, the building's lobby was empty except for a nervous guard who stammered. When I said her name, She went up an hour ago, sir. With Mr. Blake." My jaw tightened. The elevator ride felt endless, each floor number glowing like a countdown. By the time I reached the top, I wasn't sure if I was ready for what I'd find. Face to face, Ryan's door was slightly open. Voices echoed from inside, hers, trembling, and his smooth and cold. "You think you can play me?" Ryan snapped. "I'm done being scared of you," Lena said. "You used me once. Never again." "You really think Ethan's going to save you?" "He'll turn on you the second he finds out what you've done." I stepped in then. Too late. I already know. They both turned, Ryan's smirk flickering, Lena's eyes wide with relief and fear. "Ethan, please, I can explain." "Save it," I said, walking toward Ryan. "You've been playing games with both of us long enough." Ryan chuckled, lifting a glass of whiskey. "You think she didn't help me? You think she wasn't part of it?" He threw a folder across the table. Photos, screenshots, documents, proof that Lena had sent him files. But now I knew what he didn't. Each file was coded, tracking software. She'd baited him into exposing himself. "You made one mistake," I said quietly. "You underestimated her." Ryan's smirk faded. "What did you do?" He growled. Lena stepped forward, her voice steady now. "I gave your servers a gift, one that reports every illegal transaction, every stolen deal straight to the feds." His expression twisted. "You think they'll believe you over me?" "They already do," I said, pulling out my phone. The recording of his confession had been running the whole time. Ryan lunged forward, but I caught his arm and slammed him against the desk. "This is for every person you destroyed," I hissed. Lena's voice broke through the chaos. "Ethan, stop. He's not worth it." And she was right, because revenge wouldn't heal the years we'd lost, or the pain she'd endured in silence. The sound of sirens outside cut through the tension like a blade. The price of redemption. When the police took Ryan away, Lena stood quietly near the window, her reflection trembling in the glass. "You didn't have to come," she said softly. "Yes, I did, after everything I've done, especially after that." She turned to face me, tears glimmering in her eyes. "I didn't betray you, Ethan. I betrayed myself. I thought I was protecting you by leaving, by taking his offer. But all I did was destroy both of us." I took a step closer. "Then stop running." "It's too late," she whispered. "My suspension, the rumors, you'll lose everything if people find out what I've done." I shook my head. "I'd rather lose everything than pretend I don't care." Her breath caught. For a moment, the city outside disappeared, and it was just us again, standing at the edge of everything we'd broken, daring to rebuild it. The aftermath. Days later, the news exploded. Techline CEO arrested in corporate espionage scandal. My company's reputation soared. Investors returned. The board reinstated Lena after learning she'd been the key to Ryan's downfall. But not everything was perfect. Trust once shattered doesn't return overnight. We worked side by side, rebuilding what had been lost, both professionally and emotionally. Sometimes late at night when the office was quiet, she'd look at me and whisper, "Do you really forgive me?" And I'd answer honestly, "I'm still learning how to." The storm breaks. A month later, at the annual corporate gala, Lena stood on the balcony in a silver gown, the city lights shimmering behind her. When she saw me approach, she smiled, the same soft, nervous smile I fell in love with years ago. We made it, she said. Barely, I teased. You think we'll ever stop fighting fate? Maybe not, I said. But we can choose to fight together this time. She reached for my hand, and in that touch, the years of pain, betrayal, and loss melted away, leaving only something fragile but real. Hope. Rain poured outside Michael's apartment, a rhythmic echo against the glass that matched the storm inside his heart. For weeks he had lived in silence, no calls, no messages, no company except the ghosts of his memories. He had once believed that betrayal destroyed love, but now he understood. Sometimes betrayal reveals love's truest face. Tonight he was finally ready to face the truth. When the doorbell rang, Michael didn't move. He already knew who it was. Slowly he opened the door. There stood Sarah, drenched, trembling, eyes swollen from tears. Michael, please, I need to explain, she whispered. He said nothing, stepping aside. She entered shivering, her once confident tone replaced by guilt and desperation. I never wanted to hurt you, she began, her voice breaking. You think I betrayed you for money? For him, but it wasn't like that. Michael looked up sharply. Then tell me what it was like. Sarah took a shaky breath. When your company started growing, you were so busy. And I met Daniel because he was your CEO. He said he wanted to help us. I trusted him, but he used me. He made me believe you were planning to leave me. Michael's jaw tightened. And you believed him over me? I was scared, she cried. He showed me fake messages, documents, things that made me doubt you. I didn't realize he was trying to take everything you built. Michael's heart sank. Daniel had been his mentor, his friend, his partner in business. The betrayal ran deeper than love. It was treachery in both heart and empire. So he took my company. And you, Michael said bitterly. Sarah shook her head. He never had me. Not really. The moment I saw his true face, I left him. I came here because I couldn't live knowing you thought I betrayed you for greed. The silence stretched between them, heavy, aching, real. Michael walked to the window, watching the lightning flash over the city skyline. You know what hurts the most? He said quietly. Not that you left, but that I was ready to give up everything for you and you never trusted that. Sarah approached him slowly, tears spilling down her cheeks. I was foolish. I thought I was protecting myself, but in doing that, I lost you. Michael turned, his eyes filled with the same mix of anger and longing that had haunted him for months. Maybe, he said softly, some things are meant to be broken, so we can see what was real. She reached out, her hand trembling, touching his chest. Do you still love me? He didn't answer right away. The truth was, love never really disappeared. It just buried itself beneath the ashes of betrayal. Finally, he whispered, yes, but I don't know if that's enough anymore. Her sob was quiet, but it carried everything she'd lost. Michael stepped closer, brushing a tear from her cheek. I'll never hate you, Sarah, but I can't go back to who I was before all this. As dawn began to break, Sarah turned toward the door. I understand, she said, voice trembling. Just know I never stopped loving you. When the door closed behind her, Michael felt the weight of 2 years lift off his shoulders. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't revenge. It was closure. He looked out at the morning sun piercing through the clouds, a reminder that even the darkest nights eventually surrender to light. And for the first time in a long time, he smiled. Sometimes, the person who breaks you is also the one who teaches you how to rebuild.